This season on Kerr Fatou.
Who is engaging them too?
No.
Fatou.
I am not at liberty to say yes or no.
Oli.
For us, every day is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to see possibilities on the horizon, to make our facilities and services more accessible and find freedom all around us. With a location proximity to active markets, with a liberal air transportation policy, that daily pursuit is how we turn everyday opportunities for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.
When we touch down, better broke down.
With Gamtel G-fiber, now you can enjoy super fast internet in gigabytes. G-fiber is affordable, stable, secured, and accessible to homes, businesses, and enterprises. With Gamtel G-fiber, the future is speed. Gamtel, creating a brighter future in communication.
Can't do small or big projects with the same dedication and commitment as we do. With a reputation as the leading printing company in the country, when it comes to major projects and innovative solutions, we always deliver in high quality, thus receiving the trust and confidence of our clients. From the moment your order is placed to when it is delivered, we believe in exceeding expectations from the sales manager to the production team, the account manager, and the person delivering your material. We have state-of-the-art equipment and a highly experienced and competent workforce that enables us to deliver top quality work on time. At reasonable prices, we provide our clients with multiple solutions right from conceptualizing, designing, printing, binding, publishing, and distribution. For all your printing requirements, we are strategically located at the Sankumsila Highway, the Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation. We print what you desire.
Every young Gambian dreams of a university degree. He wants a good paying job after graduation, a pretty wife, and ultimately own a dream home.
What if I can't afford my desired dream home?
And that is why you need to visit Universal Properties.
We specialize in customer satisfaction. We listen to every of our clients' needs when we show the properties to our clients. Before you know it, you hear the client saying,
I like this house.
This is the room that cuts my heart.
And most of the time, they cling to the door, never to let go. Most clients want to close the deal right there. And that is why we always have their contracts in the trunk of our cars. We work at our client's pace. No haggle, no hassle.
We're waiting for you at our office in Caraba Avenue here in the Gambia.
Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
fay lempo warugal la si képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga ak ñu fi dëkk bu fekkee ne ci at mi sa koom-koom weesu na $2,400 dalasi mbete weer bu nekk di nga am lu tollu si $2,000 dalasi lempo si la nguur gi di sukkandiku ngir liggéey yokkute réew mi GRA mooy banxaas bu nguuri Gambia sas ngir mu fayeku lépp luy lempo ci biir réew mi ba tax na GRA di yëgal faykati lempo yi ne warugar la pour ñu fay lu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment maanaam bépp contrat bu waay joxe te si biir réew mi lañu toog kon xaalisi contrat bi ngeen nangutoo war nga cee wàññi ci xayma téeméer bu nekk fukka bu fekkee ne contrat bi dëkkut ci biir réew mi bu boobaa di nga war a wàññi téeméer bu nekk fukka ak juróom lii mooy lempo bu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment lii mooy lempo bi nga xam ne yow mi joxe contrat warugal la nga wëlbatiku dem fay ko ci maakaani GRA tax office bu la gën a jege mbete ci banque yi GRA jagleel pour fay lempo war ngaa jébal lempo bi si diiri fukki fan ak juróom gannaaw bi nga wàññee ci xaalis si contrat bi amul benn contracto bu ñu teggil fay lempo bi xanaa mu fekk ne nguuri Gambia ñoo ko jégale boole si projet yi nga xam ne mbootaay ndimbali ñoo koy dépense GRA di fayeku lempo ngir yokkute réew mi.
Hello and welcome to this special interview. Tonight with me, I have the new country representative from the World Bank Gambia team, Madam Feyi. Welcome to Kerr Fatou for the first time.
Thank you for having me.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamsel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamsel G-fiber.
And first and foremost, tell us about how you've been here for about a month, right?
I came in September, yes.
And how are you enjoying the beautiful Gambia, the Smiling Coast?
It is indeed the Smiling Coast, and I'm able to go to the beach almost every day. So it's been wonderful. The people are so friendly. I'm having a wonderful time. I had heard really good things about the Gambia before I came, but even still, I'm pleasantly surprised by how amazing the country is.
Yeah. So briefly, tell us about yourself. I know you're the country representative of the Gambia World Bank team.
Yes.
Tell us a little about yourself before we just get into the World Bank.
Absolutely. So this is my 10th year at the World Bank, and just before this, I was working in our Nigeria country office. By birth, I'm both American and Nigerian by birth. So I have lived in the US for half my life and Nigeria for almost about half of my life. I've worked in, before I joined the bank, I worked in the private sector. So I have an MBA background. So I worked in the private sector quite extensively as well for another 10 years before I joined the bank. So far I've been working in the private sector development space, working to support countries in developing their private sector. And now I'm here overseeing the overall agenda for the Gambia, for the World Bank. So it's a pleasure to be here.
And we're glad to have you on, Kerr Fatou. So let's talk about the bank in general.
Sure.
The World Bank, what's the bank's mandate? How do you operate across the world?
Our focus is on the reduction of poverty and improving shared prosperity. So we are basically focusing on how we support countries in their development agenda. What can we do to reduce poverty and ensure that the growth that the country has is inclusive and sustainable? So that's really our focus. We work in several ways. So we have the World Bank Group, which is actually made up of 5 institutions. We have the International Development Association, which we call IDA. And that is the association that actually works directly with the Gambia. And we work with poor countries across the world, providing low interest and also grants to countries. So that's really how we work. Then we have the IBRD, which is our International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which works for middle-income countries, which provides loans to middle-income countries. As well, we have our International Finance Corporation, which offers private sector investment. And then we have a multilateral investment guarantee agency, which provides political risk assurance. And then finally, we have what we call ICSID, the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. So we actually have quite a broad mandate. But for the Gambia, we focus really in on IDA. And IDA is really our International Development Association, where we bring both our resources, our financial resources, but also our technical knowledge to really support the country in implementing its mandate, its development mandate. So we've been working with the Gambia. The country office was opened about 17 years ago. And even before that, we've been supporting the Gambia. In recent years, we really are focusing on providing grants to the Gambia, particularly because of the high levels of debt distress. An important area for us is ensuring that countries have manageable debt levels. All countries do borrow, but we do want to make sure that the levels are manageable. So for the Gambia, we're working with them both on reducing their debt and also providing them with grants to be able to move forward on their development agenda, which has become really important, especially now at times like this, in these pandemic times.
Obviously, these times like these are trying times for so many countries.
Yes.
And part of the mandate is to help poor countries.
Yes.
So what has the bank done since the advent of the pandemic in the Gambia?
Yes. So just like the rest of the world, we've had really negative impact of COVID on the country, both in terms of the health indicators, the economic indicators, kids are out of school. So what we did as the World Bank was we really rapidly responded to the COVID response. The first thing we were able to do was we tapped into our fast track facility. We had a global facility to support countries in attacking the COVID pandemic, and we actually put $10 million. We are one of the largest contributors towards this pandemic, and the $10 million was really to support the health efforts. Accessing the right technology, the right equipment, also the PPE, what we call the personal protective equipment, the masks, and also the social distancing measures, educating the communities across the country on the importance of the pandemic. So that was our health support. We also supported the education sector. So we have an ongoing education sector program, which is supporting the basic and the secondary health, education team. And what we did there is we actually were able to access $3.46 million, which was funded by the Global Partnership for Education, to really support the pandemic. And I have to commend the efforts of the basic education ministry, because they really went into the online and the distance learning through the radios, through the television, and those who didn't have access, they had limited printed materials to really ensure that the lack of physical education did not permanently impact the students. So that was another way that we supported. And then the third way and the final way that we supported was through our social safety net project.
Yeah.
So it was really a timely project that was already in the beginning stages, but what we ended up doing was actually repurposing, it's a $30 million project, which is going to be the first social safety net project in the Gambia.
It's called the Nafa project, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we repurposed 10 million of that for the Nafa Quick. So what the Nafa Quick program did was accelerate the implementation of the program. From July, we were able to start the program where the government was actually, through the Office of the VP, there's a national secretariat that is supporting the program. They were able to work with the National Agency of Nutrition, and they were able to actually provide cash transfers. So what we call cash transfers, a little bit of funding, about $1,500 per household to 30 districts. And then, so what we did was 2 tranches of that. The first set in September, $1,500, and then another $1,500 in October. So we, as of right now, the program has accessed about 83,000 households. And that really stems the poverty impact of the COVID epidemic. So that was an overall, so we had a really comprehensive package for the government.
I want to talk about a little about the Nafa project.
Yes.
This is something that is very exciting for low-income households.
Yes.
I think about 83,000 households will benefit from this.
Yes.
Direct cash transfer.
Yes.
How will this help? I know it's not, you're not the economist here, but
yes.
at least give us an idea as to how it will help
Absolutely.
boost the economy.
Absolutely.
We have seen this even in America,
yes.
where the government is giving checks to people directly
yes.
to help stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
How will this help directly boost our economy?
Yeah, so the whole purpose of cash transfers is to support the families, but also boost the consumption levels in the economy. In the Gambia, we're estimating about 40,000 additional families would be pushed under the international poverty line of $1.90 per day. So what we want to do is really stem those numbers of people falling into abject poverty, while also stimulating the economy. When they use what we found is that the money that people get from the cash transfers are typically used, to buy food in the market, to buy these simple things. And these are the things, and when they're buying, they're also helping the sellers. So that really helps, stem the decline in market activity. So when you have the market continuing to be enacted, that really helps to stem the economy. So it's really a two-edged program. It's a win-win. It's a win for those who are consuming, but it's also a win for the market people who are selling. So that's how we see the impact.
Okay, so let's talk about the response. How would you rate Gambia's response to the COVID outbreak?
Yeah. So as we all know, this COVID outbreak really impacted the world and took us all by surprise.
Yeah.
And you see that even the largest and most developed economies are struggling with the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I have to say that I believe that the Gambian government has done a great job. They did a few things which I think were important.
Yeah.
They first of all set up the coordination mechanism, interministerial mechanism that is led by the National Disaster Management Agency.
Yeah.
And also then the closures, we have found that the closures of the borders, really also helped across the world. So I believe that some of these things that were put in place ensured that the numbers are not as great as we're seeing in other countries. Now, you have to acknowledge the fact that even before COVID, the country was struggling, right? The health sector is in really bad shape. The education sector, there's poor quality of education. So these are things that you cannot transform overnight.
Yeah.
And so with what you have, I think, the response has been pretty good, I have to say, given where you started from. But the good thing that I see about the pandemic is that it's showing us that the status quo is not acceptable, and this is the case all over the world.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to build back better, how to build resilient systems that can take on any of these kind of shocks, whether it's a geographical disaster like a climate disaster, whether it's any kind of a disaster, including what we have, a medical disaster situation. So we have to be ready for these kind of situations. And that's where we're looking to work with the government on to see how we can build resilience into these systems, improve service delivery, improve the health sector, improve the education sector to ensure that we are ready for shocks.
Talking about improving the health sector, the bank just approved just this month, I think last week, an extra 30 million to inject in the health sector.
Yes.
How would that help develop the health sector?
So what we are really looking to do is to support primary health care all across the country. So really the funding is supposed to do that because you need the fundamentals. People need to be able to access primary health care nearby. So what we're doing is, the funding does not cover the entire country, but what we're trying to cover is at least almost about half of the country to be able to improve the primary healthcare services in terms of the physical facilities, in terms of the actual services, in terms of training, to really ensure that the average Gambian has access to health. That's one area that we really feel strongly about, that if you can actually sort out the health sector, it will have a catalytic impact on the rest of the economy.
So talking about the economy, I know the World Bank works with countries, poor countries. This pandemic, if anything, has tested the strength of the economies across the world.
Yes.
So globally, how would you think the pandemic has affected economies across the world, but in particular the Gambian economy?
So what we are finding actually is that the global economy is contracting significantly by about 4% or so are the estimates that we're seeing. For the Gambia, before the COVID pandemic, actually, we were projecting, 6% growth. Things were actually on an upswing economy-wise. Because of the COVID pandemic, we're seeing probably about a 2% retraction, actually, in growth, which is not as bad, actually, as the global economy. So, and if you think about the fact that sectors such as tourism have basically vanished, right? And we're hoping that we see tourism pick up this season, but it is, time will tell. But the fact that, a country that is so dependent on sectors such as this that were so impacted to only contract by 2%, for us we see as a positive. We saw increases in remittances, actually, so people are still sending money back home. We see resilience in the construction sector. So there's still quite significant economic activity. So I have to say that our economists were pleasantly surprised with the numbers that we're seeing for the Gambia. So yes, the Gambia will not grow as we expected, but neither is any country in the world. So relatively speaking, we're hoping that things will go on an upswing, and then by this time next year we can be telling a different story.
So let's look at the projects that the bank has rolled in 2020.
Sure.
Of course, the health, $30 million was last week in the health sector.
Yes.
3.4 was injected in the COVID response and education. Is there any other thing that you're putting in the education sector?
So we have several projects. So we have several, currently we have 7 ongoing national projects, and we have 4 regional projects. So the Gambia is actually accessing quite a significant amount of resources. I think right now we're about 300 million in available resources. So, and these cover several sectors, including, we talked about health.
Yeah.
We actually have an ongoing education sector project, support sector project, which is supporting the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Health. So that is helping them implement their sector programs. We also have projects on fiscal management, because one of the areas, as I said before, is that the country has high debt levels. So really ensuring that the fiscal resources are used, the revenue, the debt are managed very well, the expenditures are managed very well. So we have a project, Fiscal Management Development Project, that is working on that. Is working with the GRA, the Gambia Revenue Authority, and is also working with the Ministry of Finance and looking at state-owned enterprises, because one of the main, a big area of fiscal expenses has to do also with our state-owned enterprises. So we're looking at that. We also have a project, this one is closing, that has helped with financial management, making sure that you have the right financial management systems in place. So we have that. And then we have an agriculture project which supported rural and agriculture in rural areas that has closed. But so we have, I think, several. I talked about the social protection project already.
That is very exciting. Yeah. And a lot of people are really excited about the Nafa project.
Then we also have a support to the budget, direct support to the budget. And that is in acknowledgement of the reform agenda of the government.
Why is that so important, the budget support?
So the reason is, go ahead.
Yeah, because it's important for us to highlight that, because we see a lot of budget support this year from either the World Bank or from the other donor partners. Why is it important? Why is it very important?
Okay, so yes, so the IMF and the World Bank, we've been working to support the budget. The reason why it's important is because without these resources, the government would not be able to implement its plans, its activities in a way that is conducive to public service delivery. They won't be able to implement their activities. So what we're doing is we say, look at, you develop a series of reforms. So we have fiscal reforms, we have reforms in the energy sector, and we have reforms in the telecom sector as well. And we're looking to them to say, okay, doing these reforms will lead you on the path to fiscal stability, and therefore we would be able to support that. So another area that we also are supporting is in the energy sector as well.
That's an area that I really want us to dwell on more.
Go ahead.
The bank has spent a lot of money on the energy sector. Recently, I know the Gambia Electrical Restoration Modernization Project was initially 121 million, and the bank committed almost, I think, 40 million to that. We also talked, the GSP ended with a series of 40 million. The OMVG also, the bank committed a lot of money to that as well. All of these monies that the bank is committing to the energy sector, but still, the average Gambian is not seeing the impact of these. So where is all these monies going into?
So what I would say, I just want to say one thing: be patient. The energy
for how long?
the energy sector in the electricity is a very expensive undertaking, and it involves many different phases. The first phase is the generation. You actually have to be able to generate the electricity. Then you need to transmit it and distribute it to the consumers. A lot of the work that we have done in the early stages, in the initial projects, has to do with generation, improving the generation capacity. And actually, over the past few years, the generation capacity has tripled. So it's a good story, but it's a story that is work in progress, because the work that we're now focusing on now is how do you strengthen transmission and distribution to ensure that the consumers are actually getting this electricity. And that's where a lot of the investment is going to be taking place over the next few years. In terms of the OMVG, those are one of the regional projects trying to connect the Gambia to the rest of the region. That is really focused on diversifying our energy mix. So right now, the country uses heavy fuel oils to power electricity, which is the source that most use, but it's also very dependent on commodity prices. We hear about the oil spikes, oil prices, they're going up, they crash. It's very volatile. We want to expand to hydro. So that's part of the OMVG activity, to connecting to hydroelectricity. Also, we have projects that are trying to work on solar energy, especially in rural areas, and also connecting the rest of the Gambia. So it's not just the cities that are connected. So what we are envisioning over the next, actually what our energy colleagues anticipate, is that Gambia will be one of the first countries to get complete 100% universal access to electricity, where the whole country will be connected over the next by 2030. So the goal is for sub-Saharan Africa to have access to electricity by universal access, but Gambia is one of the countries that our colleagues see at the forefront of that. Now, today, of course, we have the issues with the blackouts and I mean with the the electricity blackouts, but if you look at the numbers, they are reduced. So what has happened is we've gone from where you have over 15 or so a day to much less. However, there's short-term equipment issues that have exacerbated the situation. And part of the delay has been, of course, due to COVID not getting the right parts. Now, unfortunately, these parts are not manufactured in the Gambia, so you have to also export. So it's an expensive industry. It's also a complicated industry. So I would say a bit of patience. I want you to task me. I'm supposed to be here for 4 years.
4 years.
By the time I'm leaving, let's have this.
Let's have another interview.
Let's have this
and look at the situation, right?
Yes, I would say that's my promise.
A lot of us will say all of these money is going in. But how is the World Bank also monitoring these projects that are being injected in these these public enterprises? Because I know a lot of money is being injected in the energy sector. Let's talk also the physical management. The physical management budget support. A lot of money is being injected, but how is the World Bank monitoring these projects?
Sure.
Because that is also something, in Africa, procurement processes and others are issues that are of a lot of concerns. How is the bank managing these projects to make sure they are injected the right way and how the bank wants it to be done?
Sure. So one of the things that you need to know is when you hear these large amounts that the government has released this amount, the bank has released this amount for this project, the government doesn't just get the whole amounts all at once. When it's the budget support, like I talked about, yes, that goes directly to the budget. But for these investment projects, for example, the energy project, what happens is the government comes up with a procurement plan, and they are supposed to follow the World Bank procurement processes, which are internationally best practice procurement processes, basically, which prioritize transparency, prioritize competitiveness to make sure that you open all these tenders to competition, depending on the size. If it's a tiny thing, then it's less onerous. But for the large projects, you have really stringent procurement rules. And one of the issues that we face all across the world, not just in the Gambia, is actually spending the money, because the process needs to go through such a stringent procedure. Every time we have, at different stages, when you do your expression of interest, typically the government counterpart sends it to us. We look at it to ensure that, at least the expression of interest is aligned with the activities that we had agreed. When there's a request for proposal, they submit the reports to say this is how the request for proposal went. So we try to monitor it all across the chain to say, and when this does not go with our procurement, we say, this is not in line with the procurement. We can't give you what we call a no objection, because the funds are the government's to spend, but they're supposed to spend them in line with the World Bank procurement processes. So we do our best. Our teams really do their best to make sure that we're aligned, and we also have procurement specialists who come in, who do training also for the government. And I have to say that since I have come just in the past 2 months, I have heard from several government counterparts on the need they want us to help strengthen procurement. So I think this is something that is generally recognized, and we are working towards it. We're trying to bring our experts to really work on this topic. But I have to say that it's one area that we are very, very stringent about. It's typically very difficult to access the resources without following due process. It's almost impossible. But at the end of the day, of course, the government is responsible for the implementation, and we just focus on the process.
So the telecoms, I am very much interested in that area. That's the area we operate in. The telecoms reform policy. What does the bank hope to achieve in that sector? how are you helping to develop in the telecoms industry?
So what we are looking at in the telecom sector is really, the ultimate goal is how do we digitize the Gambia? How can the government support the digitization of the Gambia? If the Gambia is connected to the rest of the world, it really opens up opportunities. And how do you do that in a way that is cost competitive as well? So what we have been working on with the government, which we started through the actual, the prior budget support, again, the development policy financing I talked to you about, was to look at the reforms in the telecom sector and say, what needs to be done to increase the private sector participation in this sector, to make it open and to make investors want to come in and really connect the country. What has been done already is the government has invested in the submarine cables.
Yeah.
So really you have the underlying foundation. What you now need is to get the private sector to come in and use these underlying infrastructure in a way that benefits the society. So I see a lot of potential there. We are working on the reform agenda, which includes, looking at the current state-owned enterprises in the sector. How can they be, how can they be improved? How can we ensure that the private sector is able to come in and compete, fairly? So those are the areas we're looking at. And then we also have what we call the digital economy assessment. Yeah. So we have a digital economy for Africa initiative where we are really working to connect Africa. And we're doing an assessment of the Gambia. So we've done it in several countries. We're doing one for the Gambia. We are just starting, actually. We'll be having a launch workshop this coming week. And we're going to look at several areas, starting with the infrastructure. So we already talked about the digital infrastructure, but also looking at what can be done in terms of digital platforms. We're talking about e-government, which would make it very easy, much easier for the citizens to access public services, and even much easier for the government to talk to each other. That's an area we're also looking at. We're looking at digital skills. We talked about the educational sector. How can we ensure that digital skills are incorporated into the education sector so that the young Gambians are digitally savvy? How do we do that? We're looking at that. We're looking at the financial sector, digital financial sector. In many countries across Africa, mobile money is really prevalent, and I'm seeing that it's not really there yet here. And this opens up so many opportunities. So we're looking at digital financial services. Then we're looking at digital businesses. How do businesses, connect to leverage technology to grow their businesses? So we're looking across the gamut, and I look forward to sharing the findings with you. But this is one area that I have to say we're quite excited about at the bank.
Finally, the bank is committed so much money to the Gambia. In line with the reform agenda that the bank is working on, are you optimistic about the road that the country is taking?
I have to say I'm very optimistic. I've worked in very difficult contexts all across the world. I've worked in Eastern Europe, I've worked in West and East Africa. I'm quite optimistic. I know that I don't know if this is common. I read the newspapers, I know. But what I would say is, I think this is a very young democracy. I think people have to recognize it takes a while to really get on that path to growth. But the foundations are there. I would ask for patience and persistence. I think if we keep moving in the right direction, the sky is the limit for the Gambia. I keep saying, I see a path, and I always say, maybe it's because I just got here, but really I have worked in many countries, and I do see a path to development for the Gambia. I'm quite optimistic. Again, let's talk in a few years.
Let's talk in a few years. So in 2017, the Gambia government, developed the NDP to help to get donor partners to commit to the reform agendas of the government. The World Bank and other donor partners are helping to support the government in those aspects. Is the bank satisfied with the way the reform agendas are rolling out? Are you happy with the way government is rolling out the reform agendas?
So what we always say is that the reforms are, for me, I would say, even more important than the investments. So the reforms open the path to actually making sure that the investments are utilized effectively and implemented well.
Yeah.
So what we are saying, and we will continue to say to the government, is keep pushing. a lot has been done, but there's a lot still to be done. And the faster we move, the faster we will see the results. Some of these reforms are very difficult. You know, I talked about some of the things we did in the energy sector. For example, having the government pay NAWEC was a problem, but that has been sorted out. There are many of these areas that need to be done, just basically within the government and just to actually stabilize the economy. And these are ongoing conversations we're having. So I think from our side, the government and from donors like the IMF as well, development partners like the IMF, we are committed to working with the government to implement the reform agenda, to support their implementation of the reform agenda, to ensure that the investments that come along will then be effective.
And are you optimistic that the government is committed to?
I mean, from what I've seen so far, I'm optimistic. From what I've seen so far, I'm optimistic. Of course, I know the realities on the ground can complicate things, but I'm really hopeful. So I think I would say that I'm hopeful that the reform agenda will continue and even accelerate over the next
year. And is the bank willing to roll out more money to the Gambia?
So we always have limited budget. We have a very limited budget, but we are in the process of developing this new country partnership framework that I talked to you about. And the government has been allocated, the country has been allocated some more additional funds from the IDA, what we call the IDA 19, which is our new cycle. So we have funds, but exactly like I said, the reform agenda is very critical to ensure that the investments are implemented effectively.
And your final message to the Gambian viewers right now?
So, you know, I'm really happy to be here. One of the things that we want to do is engage with the citizens. We're trying to develop a citizens engagement program as well. And we're in the process of developing a new strategy, what we call our country partnership framework, which is going to start from July of next year. And we're in the process of developing it, and we would like to get input from really everyone. We've been having meetings with different stakeholders. We've talked to NGOs, we've talked to the private sector, and we do want to actually reach out, to the Gambian citizenry at large. So stay tuned, you'll be hearing from us.
And thank you very much for talking to us. And we are definitely excited about, I'm sure so many other Gambians are excited about the Nafa project that is being rolled out right now with in collaboration with the Gambia government. And also, we'll be looking forward to talking to you in a couple of years' time, just to look at the energy sector. Because this is something that a lot of Gambians are very much indeed concerned about. But I'm sure from this conversation, people will be very much excited to hear that things have been taking place, and in next couple of years things should be stabilized.
Yes, we're very, very hopeful. Very hopeful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to you all, good night to you all. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Have you run out of cash power? Do you want to transfer funds to your family? Or do you want salary advance without coming to the bank? Your banking services have just been brought to you on your mobile phone. Download and install from your App Store or Google Play Trust Bank's mobile app. Simply search for TBL mobile app and follow the instructions. You can access the following services: funds transfer, cash power purchase, forex rates enquiries, mobile airtime top-up, mini statement, balance enquiry. TBL app is the only app that allows you to take salary advance and many more. You can also interact with your customers using our USSD code by dialing *533#. At Trust Bank, we bring innovation that is useful to you, our valued customer. With our mobile app and USSD, banking is at your fingertips. Trust Bank Limited, proudly Gambian.
Better and stronger as the sole ground operator at the Banjul International Airport. With an expansion in travel services, customers are assured of GIA's capacity to cater for all their travel needs, provided by professional, experienced, and ever-smiling staff. GIA's Hajj package and services, by far the best in the country, give the customers the opportunity for a memorable Hajj experience. For a more efficient cargo services, GIA means business as it launches its new multi-million-dollar ultra-modern cargo complex to revitalize and stimulate air transport. GIA, the pride of the Gambia.
waaye déedéet waay ay waru la naaj waaye xam naa ne bu paree rek ma kontaan.
sama secret mooy ami tamaate jeeg balaa jonge day mun waañam ami tamaate soo ko defee si sa tooga da koy xonqal cuur jeeg bu koy jëfandikoo sa jëkkër du la musa mere.
nijaay.
waaw.
baala ma tey dama naa gis añ bi.
séeri xiif naa de.
waaye léegi ma pare topp suma lii bi maa ngi dem yegg kaay. topp suma gannaaw.
loolu de laa bëgg a dégg.
Faro compagnie mi ñu indil bébé Mariam moo ñu indil ami tamaate.
séeri sa benn cin xonq na.
ami tamaate de moo si jaar.
ami tamaate.
waaw ami tamaate.
moo ko xonqal nii. cëm. bis ni ki tey. dee naa la ami tamaate.
doomi ndey ami tamaate bi nag yónni bu ko bëgg nag mooy def nag mu koy am bépp marché boo dugga bitik supermarket table yi bépp foo dugga si biir réew mi di nga am ami tamaate.
Musa ngom jaarama séeréer bu ndaw jaarama Musa waaw jaarama lan la
sam pap
dee na
déedéet daf ma yónni woon ma suyal ko bii
waaw
yàlla def mu gañe jàppoon $100,000 la def
laa ilaha illallah
te yow xam nga ne sama papa dafa amee cardiaque
yow da ngaa dof yow xam nga luy $100,000
xam naa ko kay man naa lu ñëw bëggoon nga dimbali ci
demal na nga def damaa toog rek sama xel mi ne ci yow xam nga bërki démb li daal si benn waay fee waaw ma romb ko rek bërki démb muy yuuxu di tëb ma ni kii lu ko dal ñu ne ma daal ci loto gaming Gambie bi la laal
jar na ko
laal na ci lu di waaw
nga dafa am quarté am kente am tiercé waaw maanaam nag tey jii kente bi la te jackpot bee passé xaalis
kente mooy lan
kente maanaam mooy juróomi fas yi
waaw beneen bi
am na quarté mooy ñeenti fas yi ak tiercé tey nag xaalis bi daa gën a yokk
lu tax
ndax jackpot bële dañ kaa tegaat ci bii maanaam juróomi fas yi boo ko jàppee ci ordre mooy risque nga désordre bi sax day fay bu ma ko jàppoon
yooyu moom noonu la demee da ngay dem rek jouer
am na lu ma yaakaar
man gis naa seen kii yi keesku yu ndaw yi ci biir dëkk bi mais daal dama ni lii moom amul xaalis da nga ciy def sa xaalis
day jël wecce rek sànni ko fa xool jëmbat la laa ilaha illallah yow li nga wax ni tey ji bu yàlla dogaloon ma gañe ko lu mu gàtt
fi mu toll nii boo gañe woon $100,000
waaw lu may def
waaw nooy def
xam nga yow sama xarit nga
waaw
damay fexe nga rey say noonu
ci nan
lu mu gàtt $50,000
waay
Thierno woowee ambulance
lan la lu xew ni
sa baay gay dee na
sama papa gay lu ko rey
$100,000 ne ko boo ma gañaloon si li ma la yónni dama ko koy jox mu daanu ni sama kaw
man waxuma ko mu waxee woon la ko noonu yow la ko waroon informé ndax yow yaa ko gañe yaa gañe jàppoon
Salut Pro Beats
cey kër gi nag xam ngeen ko di boutique bu ñu leen indil fii ci réew mi mu nekk fan ca poori Palmarima dama ne jëkkër ak jabar ànd ak seen doom ba dugg ca biir jënd ba baax waaye looy foog ne dafa seer déedéet kër gaa ngi nii kër gi moom lu baax rek la leen amal loo soxla rek am na ci biir kër gi néeg waañ yëpp am na ci biir kër gi cabinet yëpp am na ci kër gi waay kër gi daal boo duggee ca biir loo waral ree bi ree ji lu ko waral yomb gaa waral ree gi dafa yomb loolu moo tax ngay ree kër gaa ngi nii dara seero fi Beko di brand boo xam ne indi lañ leen ko fii ci réewi Gambia kana ko indi kër gi waaye itamit pour dem ci office rek ñu kóot la ba nga ne nekk tay la ba nga ne nag office furniture dañu am design boo xam ne dañ la koy defal ba mu mit nag sa corporate image brand dama ne kër gi daal moo ëpp lépp kër gi daal moo am lépp kër gi daal lépp loo soxla moo lu waral ree ji yomb jee tax ngay ree du waxoon naa la ko fii dara seeru fi yaa ngi dem ba baay di nga dellu si waat kër gi di nga dellu si waat ci kër gi